I suppose Wind and Wuthering came after a bit more confidence, having had Trick of the Tail do well. I think in some respects, the edge and the excitement of Trick of the Tail, you know, the edginess of will it work or not, and did work.
Pete and Tony were like this, you know, I mean, best of friends, but like this. And possibly with Peter having long gone by this point, Tony realizing that possibly, you know, I mean, he was able to sort of, like Mercury, kind of sort of spread out a little bit and get much more of him out. And of course, with me not writing, and maybe Steve writing, but not everybody liking what he was bringing in, there was only him and Mike.
I think it's
Welcome back, listeners, to YUH166 with Lisa, Phil, and Aaron. This week, we're talking to Kevin MacShane, famous from the Smokin Cobras. That we have quite a relationship with on our podcast, and also Aaron has attended shows. So because they're based in California and we are based in Cincinnati, so should they tour? And
we're working on that. I'm actually contacting state fairs across the country to hire us, you know, to play at state fairs and stuff. So we're working on that.
We might even go a few miles to see you.
Well, the state fair is in Columbus.
Yeah.
The Ohio State Fair.
Yeah, that's a haul, but we could do it.
It's only 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's where I fly into when I visit you guys.
And we can make arrangements for my, well, I'm on dialysis, so we can make arrangements.
So we're in Cincinnati, you're on dialysis. All right, let's go.
Okay, we are talking with Kevin. Sorry, Kevin.
That's okay.
We're talking with my brain. We're talking with Kevin about the Genesis album, Wind and Wuthering. Now, my question for Kevin, just to get things kicked off, is are you more of a Genesis fan or a Wind and Wuthering fan? What made you pick this album?
What made me pick this album? Okay, I am a Genesis fan. I'm a music fan in general, but Genesis definitely played a big part in influencing me. Phil Collins as a drummer, all of the above. Peter Gabriel, when, you know, in Genesis and outside of Genesis. I've seen them all play live several times. And this particular album was like, to me, it was like a pivotal point in the band's career, and it was actually a pivotal point in my life, you know, as a young teenager when this album came out. It really influenced me, and you know, it was and that's why I chose this album. And not that it's kind of an underrated Genesis album, because it really isn't, but not a lot of people are familiar with it as compared to the older stuff with Peter Gabriel, and then also with you know, the newer stuff with after, and then there were 3, you know, and so forth. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things about the album. It was the last album that Steve Hacket played with him, the original guitarist, all through the early Genesis stuff, and it almost showed like the change in the style of music that they were creating. You know, this album to me was kind of pivotal in that. You know, the album before Trick of the Tail still had a little bit of the old Genesis in it, but this one really kind of represented where they were going, you know, in my opinion. And that's why I chose this album.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I think I had Nursery Crime and Foxtrot.
Yeah.
I'd never heard Wind and Wuthering.
Ah, all right.
It seems like a lot of people bring us albums that are sort of transitional in the career of the band. It's like, you know, and in this case, it was with Peter, it was more I guess even more proggy than it is in this album, even though there's plenty of that, but you can hear more sort of the pop themes starting to surface, you know.
Yep.
With the members of the band that are coming and going.
Yep.
Yeah. So we like to go through just a little bit of background on it. I don't have a lot of background on the individuals, although I am going to identify who the players are on the album, but it was released on December 17th, 1976 on Charisma Records, recorded in the Netherlands. The members of Genesis are, at the time at least, Tony Banks on keyboards, Steve Hacket guitar, Mike Rutherford bass, rhythm guitar, and of course Phil Collins on drums. Chester Thompson did serve as their tour drummer on this album after the departure of Bill Buford. And I know Aaron is going to contribute some stuff about Thompson.
Probably.
Yes.
That's what we count on you for, Aaron.
It's the band's eighth album.
The tour was after this album, technically.
Yeah.
It's the eighth album of Genesis, following Trick of the Tail from February of the same year. So they put out two, you know, very creative and large, I would call them large albums, because
they bookended 1976 with them.
Yeah, two albums 1 year. But some of the pop culture events that are taking place at the time of the release of this album, Rocky and Taxi Driver were released on film. Frampton Comes Alive and High Voltage from AC/DC were both released that year, as well as Hotel California. That was that Eagles album was released the same month, in fact, as this. Viking 1 landed on Mars and started sending back these ridiculously beautiful photographs of the surface of Mars that, you know, never could have dreamed of seeing before. Apple Computer was founded. Cincinnati Reds won the World Series, their second in succession.
And we were in the afterglow of our second World Series championship when this album came out.
Right.
Afterglow, pun intended.
Right.
The Great Eight. And then you had
and I think that was the year that, if not started, at the very least cemented the fandom of Philip and, I don't know, possibly Aaron.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't speak for that for you.
The Steelers beat the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Family Feud and Richard Dawson kissing all the women on stage, something he never could get away with today. Started. Gone with the Wind, aired for the first time on TV. And of course, Jimmy Carter won the presidency. So that's kind of the pop culture stuff. But
it was the bicentennial.
Bicentennial. But Kevin, you mentioned that it was Steve Hackett's last album. So I thought, you know, he was an integral part of the band. And so I did a little bit of biographical study of him, more so than the others. And he grew up in Pimlico, in the shadow of Battersea Power Station, which, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, that is the power station that's represented on the cover of Animals. The Animals album. He had a background, or Steve had a background in classical music, was inspired by Hank Morgan and the Shadows. His first band was called Quiet World. He was also inspired by the Heather Brothers. That's a pretty brief biography of Steve Hackett, but thought it was, you know, a nice send-off. Stuff about
he went on to create some pretty decent albums himself after he left Genesis too. And he was working with, like, I think he did an album with Kerry Livgren from Kansas, doing all the vocals, and they did an album together. And he also did some soundtrack stuff, and
I think so Phil Collins played on his stuff too, right?
Yeah. I mean, they remained friends, you know. It's like kind of like the Beatles, you know. I mean, they all played on each other's stuff.
Hackett felt like Tony Banks was getting too much influence, in the band, and that it was getting less weird in general.
Yeah. less to his liking.
Yeah.
So that was not an acrimonious separation necessarily. So that was a matter
No,
of
he'd been wanting to take time to do a solo album for like a year or more, and they kept saying no, no, no.
Yeah.
So that's probably similar to what happened with Peter Gabriel, right? I mean, because they were not acrimonious either. I mean, Gabriel still. I mean,
he just up and left.
Yeah,
it was the same deal. It was like Genesis was a democracy, and he didn't want to be, voted down in what he wanted to do anymore.
Right. And as a sound engineer, I don't want to get too far off on Gabriel because he didn't perform on this album, but you have to have an appreciation for his audiophile tendencies, right? I mean, he's very meticulous. Like, I believe to this day, he produces and re-engineers all of his concerts and produces them online for download.
Yeah,
Like,
he won't release them until he's
happy
once
with
over.
It.
Yeah.
Well, he built like one of the world-class studios, and he does everything in. It's a beautiful place in England, and
Well, my boss is.
I appreciate what Peter Gabriel does, and the guys that he hires too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my boss does too. My boss will go on ad nauseum about Peter Gabriel. He loves Peter. You just ask him, wind him up. And then it's 2.5 hours later, it's all about the equipment and the production.
Phil Collins played drums on Intruder, which is one of my favorite Peter Gabriel songs.
Yep.
Okay. Fun fact.
And Primus does a fun cover of it.
No, I haven't heard that yet. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, Primus has an EP called Miscellaneous Debris. It's just it's like 4 or 5 cover songs. They cover The Residents and Peter Gabriel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good one. They
Good
cover
choices.
Pink Floyd. They cover Have a Cigar.
Oh, cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and just let's dive into the album. It's no time like the present, right?
Okay.
Go track by track, and just check out any notes. Lisa's not going to participate in this part of it. She may interject a comment here or there, but
I'm more the moderator, if you will.
yeah.
Ah,
Super Sunday, she's the ref. She'll throw a flag if any of us
Yeah.
commit a penalty. So
all right.
I'm also in charge of making the skyline.
That's right. There's some football game today, right?
yeah,
Yeah, some football game.
I'm having a birthday party for my granddaughter too.
Oh, nice.
Ah.
4 years old.
Excellent.
So I gather
So,
there's football.
Let's buy one,
shapes
get one at the weed
and-
dispensary today. So I've got plans to.
nice.
Woo! Party.
There must be Niner fans, I guess.
I don't know.
Oh, I need a connection to that those wonderful cookies that you left me.
The actual edibles.
Yeah. So I
Express.
need to connect to that friend so I can
I see.
does she sell those or just make them for friends?
I don't know. man.
Let's
Okay.
kick our business off the air.
Yeah.
Let's
take
let's
that
make
off.
sure Phil edits this part.
Yeah, right. You get in some trouble that way. But
Hey, I was thinking maybe I'd feel the music better with more cookies.
good.
I see. I'll look into it.
Gives you a different perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
One might assume.
Yeah.
Mind you, it
they were
takes
they were
about
on a
an
plate, and
hour.
I said, be careful if you eat one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can take.
I
up
turned
to-
around and there was like 2 big bites taken out of it already. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
see.
It's gone. Yeah. And I definitely felt that particular evening. But it for some reason, is it normal that it takes like an hour to an hour and a half to really kick in for me?
I don't know.
I don't know. if
Edibles
that's
aren't my thing in general.
Yeah,
Except for when it comes to
Probably because it takes so long to kick in.
probably. That might be it. I just don't like to set anything that's on fire in my lungs.
Mm.
So, and
Makes
that
sense.
might just be because my mom had lung cancer. So, but let's
So the
let's
11th
kick
Earl
off
of
the-
Mar.
Yes. The first song in the album is the 11th Earl of Mar. about a Scottish Jacobite uprising of 1715. John Erskine is the 11th Earl of Mar. The pokes fun at aristocracy, opulent opening.
Is that like
Is
a
that a
synthesizer?
synthesizer?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Let's
beginning
play a little
reminded
bit
me of
and just-
VLP kind of,
Mhm.
and then the bass later reminded me of a roundabout in and around the lake part.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, is that the
think it,
transition around 410? About the 410 mark, maybe? It's like a very progressive bass line.
Yeah, this one, I think it was composed of different songs stitched together, maybe.
Okay.
I think a lot of their stuff was.
Yeah, especially
actually.
on this album.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's it sets the mood for the entire album, actually. The way a first song should, or in an album oriented, repertoire, that's AOR,
Right.
the way they did it in 1976.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
it
written
really
by-
does, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. Like they were using rototoms, which is like that in this song, that drum that kind of goes do 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 do, that kind of high pitched drum, and you can actually tune them by turning them, and there's a screw mechanism that loosens and tightens the head as you turn it, so you can kind of hit it and turn it at the same time and change the pitch of the
So you
drum,
can
which is
pitch
kind
it
of
while
cool.
you
They
hit
were
it.
using it on this, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's some technical drumming information that you don't get everywhere on the internet.
Yeah, well, I'm a drummer, so
Yeah.
I
That's what he
actually
do.
had when I was in
Yeah.
high school, I had a prototype to those drums.
Oh, wow.
And the band that I was in, we, like Genesis, we had two drummers,
Mhm.
and we'd get up and do solos and stuff, and utilize those rototoms and timbales and all kinds of stuff, and it was
Wow.
unique for a bunch of high school kids,
Yeah, like the Grateful Dead up there, the Allman Brothers.
something like that.
Right.
Something like
Oh,
that.
I mean, yeah, there's probably a whole podcast to be devoted to what is it about the drums, what type of person goes into the drums, is it someone that just loves the percussive, the loudness of it, or, the rhythm, it's all, it comes together.
It's
I
not all
guess.
loudness. There's a lot of finesse to it too.
There is.
Right.
There is.
The brushes.
You can
and
either
the
build a
hi-hat.
house or play music,
Yeah, it's not always the fastball. Sometimes it's that soft curveball.
Yeah.
Right.
No doubt about
Change
it.
of pace.
Well, I think
read
we're all
some-
kind of born with, think of it from the womb, that what's the first thing you hear? A heartbeat, It's
True.
Yeah, there's a Mickey Hart Planet drum thing where one of the albums he did was based on ultrasound sounds, like a
right on.
and he built rhythms around that, and then it was a really cool thing to listen to when my wife was pregnant
Right.
back in the day.
I read somewhere online that this song is being sung from the perspective of a story being read to a child. And I thought,
Wow.
well, that's
The 11th Earl of Mar.
yeah.
Yeah.
It starts with daddy. I did listen to some podcasts.
I assume that was the Earl himself.
Yeah, that's kind of how or his followers talking to him.
Yeah. One or the other.
Yeah. We're not going to let's see, where did I have this? Actually, and you're going to hate me for this, Kevin. I had that as my last in my rank.
I don't hate
But,
it.
Yeah.
This is a hard album to rank, man, because
It is a hard album to rank.
Yeah.
ultimately it's all pretty good, or at least has something in it for everybody in every song.
It's kind of a narrow band of, like, there's not extremes.
Yeah.
Right. But it's expert musicianship. I mean, it's incredibly technical. It's very good.
Yeah. I heard a few mistakes in there, but
yeah. Well, 2 albums in a year of this magnitude, that's pretty, I'm sure that they were moving at a pretty quick pace. Plus touring and stuff,
Well, Damage
So the
control.
Right. So the next album, or the next song on the album, is One for the Vine. So let's take a little listen to that, and then we'll talk about it.
Travel across the plateau of ice up to its edge. Then they crossed a mountain range and saw the final plain. Still he urged the people on. Then on a distant snow, he observed one without hope flee back up the mountainside. He thought he recognized him by his walk and by the way he fell.
So Kevin, what's your impressions of this one?
You know, in my rankings, my impressions of this one, well, it was originally it was written by Tony Banks, and it was actually written for Trick of the Tail, but he was never happy with the arrangement on it, and it took him basically the whole year to get it to the point where he was happy with it, you know. And let's see, it's basically a story of a Messiah character that's forced to lead his followers into a battle, and eventually becomes disillusioned with actually what he's become and what his followers have made him, you know.
Yeah, kind of like the 11th Earl of Mar.
Yeah, pretty similar. I know. And I took another listen to this today, and it actually changed my rankings on this one. And I put it to number 3 in my rankings, because I like the way that the song flows, and the way the different sections come together, and kind of how the song tells the story, you know. And as far as like that middle section where it kind of gets complicated and the rhythms are choppy, you know,
Yeah, I love that part.
That
You know,
Percussion and sounds like around the 4.5 minute mark.
Yeah,
I took a note on that too. It's like, it reminds me of Magayock and Spellbound a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's Susie and the
Susie.
Banshees.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and yeah, so it actually changed my mind on the arrangement, and I'm sure I could probably come back in 3 or 4 days and the arrangement would be different again.
Yeah, if you listen again and swap them back around.
Right. These albums are sort of like the Constitution. It's a living document. It's always changing. Static in one way, but not in another. But
Anything from emotions to the barometer.
yeah, right.
This one, I know they played this one live a lot, right? It's a popular one.
Yeah,
it
did.
I had it highly
I've
ranked.
actually seen it play it.
I had it number 4, I think, for some of the things that you mentioned, Kevin. Tony Banks's keyboard playing on it is good. The great instrumentals about halfway through. We talked about the percussive sound. The story seems kind of ambiguous to me, but seems to imply a warlord or leader who's disillusioned by the meaning of his cause, possibly. Maybe it's the cause that drives him, not the meaning. What I wrote. So some of the lyrics that struck me was, they leave me no choice, I must lead them to glory or most likely death. The interesting part of this, I listened to it on YouTube. Sometimes I like to do that, even though I have Spotify. I like to break them down, especially an album that the breaks are kind of far apart. Like this song was 9 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah.
And there were 2 ads that popped up in the middle of it. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
It was like twice it was interrupted by ads. So it's a testament to its length, I guess.
Yeah, and society.
Yeah, right.
I think Wikipedia says it's 10:01.
YouTube has to get its Benjamins.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
people's attention spans were longer in 1976 too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And less concerned with materialism and advertising.
I
Yeah.
don't really think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
The band might have been less concerned, but society as a
Record
whole.
companies would have stuck ads in the middle of
Yeah.
songs years ago if they could have gotten away with it.
Right.
wasn't that what radio is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Break in the middle of the song.
Exactly.
Hey, come
It
see
just,
us at
we just
Toyota-thon.
moved the obsession to a more personal, interactive almost level.
So we were just more polite back then, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, wait for the song to end.
I'm
first.
waiting for when they insert the whatchamacallit into your brainstem
Yeah.
so that you can have the internet all the time in your head. And
The
then
Elon Musk
when
Neuralink thing.
your dreams, yeah, a
Starlink.
Neuralink, and your dreams will actually be the commercials.
Wow.
Mhm.
Just click it off. Shut it down. Shut it down.
Yeah.
That's the future.
All right,
Mhm.
Lisa, what's our next track? Number 3.
Yep, number 3. Sorry, Your Own Special Way.
You have your special way of holding my hand. Don't ever let go. You have your special way of turning the world so it's facing the way I'm going. Don't ever leave me.
Hun?
Okay,
You
I'll
wanna
kick
lead
it
on
off.
this one?
I think it's like I mean the hook on it is really good. This is what I was talking about where it's kind of transitioning, into
Mhm.
the more pop
Getting poppy.
oriented
Yeah.
Genesis.
Yeah.
The things I read online, hardcore Genesis fans are not too kind to this song because they think it's
It's their shark
like-
jumping sellout moment.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the chimey keyboards at the end. Gives it kind of a
Yeah.
tenderness, I think. It's got like a childlike quality, I think, that's really indelible. The double entendre is that the song is about a seaman's relationship with nature. I don't know why that came to
A-
mind, but
What's relationship to
a
nature?
seaman's
Oh.
seaman's, yeah,
A sailor.
relationship to nature.
A sailor
don't-
man. It was Popeye's
A
relationship.
sailor man, a Popeye.
spinach.
Think of a Popeye. Right. Don't ever leave me is the final lyric. Sort of a plea, so he will not lose his way. This was written by Mike Rutherford. He felt kind of shut out by Tony Banks a little bit too, right? I mean,
I don't know.
it wasn't just Hackett.
Not enough to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
not
stayed in
enough
the
to
band.
leave. Yeah, he liked that money, but
He
But
did
this
the
was a
one
Mike
solo
Ruff-
or the one side project, right? Mike and the Mechanics.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Which
okay.
was actually gained some,
Yeah, the Living
notoriety
Years was a
too.
big song.
yeah, that was a huge song. In the living years.
Yeah.
I saw them. I saw them perform
My note
this
on
the
this.
Mike.
Oh,
Let me
keep
just say,
going on
I
the
saw
living
him
years.
perform this on the Mike Douglas show, and Phil
I
kind of
forgot
looked
about
like
that
Ian Anderson during this period with the beard, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was a little quirky.
Little elf.
he did. Like
Yeah.
a smaller Ian Anderson.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, my notes are just the chorus somehow reminds me of both Todd Rundgren and the Neville brothers.
Okay.
That's wow. Even I get that reference, and interesting.
Yeah.
Look, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
Now that's funny.
Talking about commercialism just a minute ago. Now you're interjecting it.
Yeah.
But,
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commercial of the episode.
That's a
Fabric of
dope
our
Aaron
lives.
Neville track right there.
I personally am a fan of Cotton.
All right, Kevin, what's your take on that? Are you one of these hardcore Genesis fans that kind of like,
you know, I understand it, and I understand why they did it and where they were going. And maybe when I was, 14, I didn't appreciate it, but I do now. you know?
Yeah.
You've matured.
It's just a nice little ballad, to me.
Yeah.
That's all.
Not trying to
That's what it
change the
is.
world or anything. Just
Yeah.
trying to
Got to
make it
slow the
pop.
tracks down a little. Well, all the songs kind of have their fast and slower sections, but
Yeah.
it's just a nice little ballad,
Right.
Every album needs one.
True.
So when Genesis, really hit their height of their popularity, it was In the Air Tonight, right? Is that Phil Collins or Genesis?
That's Phil solo.
That's a Phil Collins song, yeah.
Okay. So Studio
And
is
then there were
also-
3, Abacab. Abacab to me was like,
Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
Their first one to chart was damn it. I read it this morning.
It'll come to you.
Yeah,
You'll
well,
blurt
I'll look
out.
it up again. It won't come to me.
Well, Abacab was a huge song.
Abacab was
got
a
lot
huge
of
song.
radio
That's like 2 albums later.
Yeah.
They had a big song off the next album.
Mhm.
Who wants to take the lead on what?
And then there were
Gorilla?
3.
Sorry.
That's when Steve Hacket had left,
Yeah.
So
So they titled the album and then there were 3?
yeah.
Okay. That's pretty descriptive.
Yeah. Do you think that was a commentary on the 4th, or
Well, it just means they were trio now.
yeah?
Yeah, I think
know.
they were just
Yeah.
letting society and their fans know that now it's just us. So,
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Don't expect
Here
too
we
much
are.
when you come see it.
Follow you,
23.
follow me. That's the song.
Yeah. That's it. Right.
Yeah, that's on. And then there were 3.
Doesn't it? With all these guys that left, and and even Phil became a solo artist. It's almost like Genesis was a farm club for or something for this, or a launching pad for this type of career.
It was still the core from high school minus Peter Gabriel stayed together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They just recently did a reunion, right? Phil's not in very
Yeah.
good shape right now, but not too long ago they did a reunion tour, didn't they?
Yeah, like
What's wrong
2
with
years
Phil?
ago.
Do we know, or
He just doesn't look good. I don't know what.
No,
No.
he's got
Get older.
is it Parkinson's?
oh? Yeah, I wonder. Did he have like a diagnosis,
Yeah.
if you
Right.
will,
They might be
as
keeping
I
it,
might call it, a diagnosis?
they might be keeping it close to the vest, kind of.
It's private. It's
Mhm.
personal. When you're going through something, sometimes you want to share it, and sometimes you don't.
Right.
No, I
Um,
did come across something I didn't know, that he was a child actor,
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah.
yeah, he was he
In
he
England?
was he was the Artful Dodger in Oliver exclamation point in the West End.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, his mom
And
was like a talent
that
agent.
involved- was it a musical version? I mean,
Yeah,
or was
it's
it
the
just
same
an
thing that
acting?
was on Broadway. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Usually
was in
they
it
throw in
until
a little
until
bit
he
of
went
singing.
Peter Brady and his voice cracked on him. I think he had to say the words for a couple shows, and then they replaced him.
They're
Yeah.
replacing with Peter Gabriel.
Time to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it my brother was he was in the Cincinnati Boys Choir as a child. My father had been as well. And when my brother's voice changed, he quit the choir and he just never really wanted to sing again. I don't know what that's about, because he does have a nice adult voice,
Crushed his
Mhm.
spirit, I
but
guess.
he just never really, he didn't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Lise. What?
Well, that's
Okay,
sad.
What Gorilla? Who wants to take the lead on What Gorilla?
about you, Kevin?
Sure.
It's-
Well, I had read that this is actually one of Phil Collins' favorite Genesis songs.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's like a reprise of the middle section of One for the Vine.
Fine. Yeah.
And Phil wanted to do it. He was kind of getting more into jazz and stuff at that time in his life. And actually I think right around this time he had a solo project that was a group called Brand X, where he was the drummer. And it was all like fusion jazz, the whole album was. I think they made 3, maybe 4 records, and this is kind of an example of that influence coming into Genesis that he brought, and it's just kind of a short little quick kind of jazz fusion thing, and
you can see why I lean toward Chester for the tour drummer.
All right. Well, and before that, Bill Bruford, so,
Yeah. Talk about your jazz fusion.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's, just a short little kind of comical thing, I think it's like an icebreaker on the album or something like that,
Yeah.
Or just kind of.
My notes are just faster theme from One for the Vine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is kind of your opportunity to talk about Chester a little bit, though, Aaron, right? Or do you think
Chester's thing on Ruth? Well,
right.
Yeah, he was
Zappa.
Yeah, he was with Frank Zappa. He was on another album that we did a deep dive into, One Size Fits All.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of the drummers on Inca Roads, and there's the lyric Chester's thing on Ruth, where they reference both Chester and Ruth Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he left Zappa, went to Weather Report. I don't know if Jocko was in the band yet at that time or not. I think he joined. Jocko probably joined Weather Report around 76.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Phil reached out to him, and I don't think he expected Chester to accept the offer, but he did, and said it was the biggest adjustment he ever had to make in his life, both musically and culturally.
So did Frank tell him that he heard that Genesis was looking for a drummer?
I think he was already gone. He'd already gone to Weather Report.
Yeah.
Oh. What?
Frank said, do you want an aisle seat or or a window
right.
seat?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which bus you want to take, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, I have this, I don't know, I have it down in my rankings. Like we said, it's a strong album, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. There's this commercial every time the Trans-Siberian Orchestra would come through, and they'd show these guys hitting snare drums and, laser shows and synthesizers and smoke and all this shit in this commercial. And I was like, I don't ever want to go to one of those concerts. And since I've
sounds
heard,
like Blue Man Group.
I think you'd enjoy it. I really do.
Well, okay, so what I've heard is that's just like part of the Christmas sound. That's kind of the Christmassy sound that they do around the holidays. But then like half the concert is like these shredding guitar solos and really good, pretty good music.
Stuff that really produces some laser, goodness.
Right. But this song kind of recalled some of that Trans-Siberian post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
You've never even been to one of the concerts.
Well, I said,
I don't know if
I've heard that all that shit they put on TV is just the hook.
The highlights.
Impressionable people, I guess.
I don't know if you could handle King Crimson with the 3 drummers out front. Man.
I don't know. It might blow my mind entirely. So, but
yeah, well, where we have to sit, you can't really see the stage very well anyway. Where it plays here in Cincinnati.
Wasn't Chester mentioned?
It plays at the Coliseum, Aaron.
I plan to go next time. I'm not going to let you go with anybody else.
Oh,
I'm gonna go
okay.
with
By the way, my usual date for the Trans-Siberian Orchestra has been my gay coworkers.
Yeah.
So she and I, yeah,
you.
we're just friends.
Didn't didn't Chester appear in the lyrics of Florentine Pogan?
I know he's in the lyrics in Inca Roads.
Okay, maybe that's.
Don't think he's in Florentine Pogan, but he.
Oh, you mentioned him and Ruth and Inca Roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lise. What do we got next here?
Morellis is mentioned
Okay.
in Florentine Pogan.
All in a Mouse's Night. A battle between cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Now I can see they're coming at me. They blocked up my door. I haven't a chance in hell. Come on, baby, let the poor thing go. I'm not sleeping with that thing around here, no. All right then, I'll fetch a box from below. Guard him carefully, they're very quick, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Literally.
That was inspired by Tom and Jerry cartoons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shows
It's
you what
very
they were
bad.
doing, what he was watching when they were on the road.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can imagine what they might have been partaking in and enjoying the Saturday morning cartoons or whenever they would air Tom and Jerry. I don't know, but it's very clever. You know, I don't sympathize with mice. I don't like rodents, so that's a little bit of
Yeah.
a little bit of against.
So you're a
against
cat
it.
person.
Yeah, more of a. I was on the other side. I was on the side of the huge
Weep.
mouse with the huge claws and the teeth.
Yeah. So the huge mouse was a cat, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's yeah.
I'm pretty sure. That
Yeah,
was the implication.
we actually do have two cats. Philip is more of a dog person, but cats are so much easier to take care of.
Yeah. I ranked this one number one. This was my favorite.
All right.
Now, for me,
It was the most
this
fun
album,
song on
I
the
will
album
just
for
say,
sure.
I didn't rank the albums, so I don't have to be specific. But for me, the two go back up, hun, to number Your Own Special Way and All in a Mouse's Nights were my two favorite songs.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. It's sometimes okay. I like the hi hat. You know, sometimes in these progressive songs, these progressive music, it's difficult to distinguish the instruments. It's almost like a cloud of sound that it's intentionally created. It's you know, like an orchestral movement, basically.
Yeah.
But I liked hearing the hi hats towards the end of this one. It gave it a little more texture, a little more depth. I thought in my that's
Something to latch on to.
Yeah, something like, oh, familiar. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it had like a call and response lyrical construction. I can certainly see why Aaron
Yeah,
likes
one of
it,
the
just
reasons
knowing
why I
his
like-
personality.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I enjoy call and response.
a fun song. You know, I have it at I think 6th or 7th, something like that. But
I made it
Yeah.
number 4 on my list, or my new list.
yeah, agreed.
Well, and I mean, those kinds of things. One of the reasons why I think that our rankings are somewhat controversial is because you can listen to the album on Tuesday and hear one thing, and then
Yeah.
on Thursday hear a different thing.
Yeah.
And you know, and so you're like you said, your rankings change. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, the more you look at it, the more your rankings are going to change. And it becomes a lot of the times it's a love exercise with these albums. And it's not that you don't like number 10. I mean, maybe you don't, but maybe it just gives you a response,
where it
a
fell.
negative
Yeah.
response, a strong negative emotional response, which either way, as long as you have a response or a reaction, who
Yeah.
cares?
That's why it
You
was
know.
created, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily there for you to love
Right.
it. It's there for you to listen
Like not
and
all art,
react.
not a painting. All
Yeah.
paintings are not beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
They're made to evoke a response. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for instance, garbage bags filled with air in a frame on a wall.
Yeah. Or anything by Andy Warhol
Art.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Number 6.
are we do
I
you
had
have
one more
anything
note
else
on
to
the
say
Mouse's
about
Night.
Olin? Yes.
There's something at the end, the bass reminded me of something in Quadrophenia. I don't know if it's the end of Cut My Hair or Bellboy or something. It's a doom doom doo doo doom. It just gives me a Quadrophenia vibe. The end.
Right.
This one.
Little John Entwistle manipulation.
Yeah, a little
The
nod
ox
to
is
the ox.
everywhere.
Oh, so we have anything else on that one? I mean,
That's my last note.
Yeah. I don't
Okay. Track
You know.
6, Blood on the Rooftops. Acoustic.
Blood on the rooftops, Venice in the spring, streets of San Francisco, word from Peking. The trouble was started by a young little flea, better in my day. Oh Lord.
Acoustic guitar intro, shades of Jethro Tull, very British.
Very
Things
British.
Things that are not necessarily femme-centric.
yeah, right.
So, discuss.
This one's like inspired by TV news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, one more thing I
like-
don't care.
I like the lyric, when we get bored, we'd have a world war. Happy but poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had this number
That is
one.
very British.
Yeah.
To me, this is the most it seems with this album they've been trying from the 11th Earl of Mar right from the very start. They're trying to be thoughtful, referencing history, introspective, and
I think they were trying to
this
move
song-
away from their fantasy reputation.
Right. Right.
So this song right here, I think, hits that intention or reach or accomplishes
Yeah.
it better than any other song on the album. That's
Yeah,
why I
you're
made it
right.
number
This moves them more towards seriousness than any of the other stuff.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
feel
think
like
it was the first time they actually used any kind of political or media reference in any
Yeah.
of their songs, and
This was a Steve Hacket song.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I think he said it was originally going to be a ballad, but all the rest of the album was kind of ballady, so he cut the other direction.
Right. Did the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the obvious thing, especially in 1976, the obvious reference you may think of is the 1972 Olympic Games, where the Palestinian terrorists held captive and eventually killed the Israeli Olympians. So that I don't know if that was the exact reference, that the blood on the rooftops, but it definitely would evoke those thoughts, I think. The very British, of course, with references to the Queen in Wales. Transition on Let's Hear the Newsboy lyric to a more driving sound that seems to be kind of like, a lot of times a lyric and a guitar lick or a change in the chord will coincide, and I felt like they employed that well here, because the beginning of the song was quite different from the rest.
Yeah. Well, they kind of move into weather and sports as you listen to the song.
Oh yeah, like a newscast almost.
Yeah, it is inspired by TV news was the first thing I said.
Yeah.
So
Some
it's
of the
like,
TV news
it's going to be
shows,
rainy in Wales or whatever, and such and such lost on the pitch, or I don't know. There's
Yeah.
a sports reference laid in it.
Some of the TV shows mentioned are from the BBC, apparently. So
Sense.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So I read somewhere that the lyrics were inspired by the works of author John, and I'm going to screw this up, but Betjeman. I'm not, but I don't know how. But,
Probably
Never heard of him.
yeah.
kind of like it's probably pronounced similar to Benjamin.
Yeah.
I think you've
Mhm.
got. I think you're close.
Well, that would be
Yeah.
something to look up. Btjeman, if you're interested in how that
I'm
ties
gonna look
into
it
this
up.
song.
Okay,
But yeah.
I will do that right now while you guys discuss.
Sounds like gambling
Okay.
on music. Bet jamming.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Where do you have
Uh,
this? I'm interested where you have this one, Kevin.
Number 7.
Number 7. Oh, okay.
That's where I have it now.
Yeah,
All
I have
right.
it 8.
Okay. I did hear, so when I was researching this and getting ready, and some of the other podcast friends and journalists and amateur journalists, this was very popular with a lot of people, not only for this album, but among the
Blood on the Rooftops.
Yeah. So, all right.
Interesting.
okay. The pronunciation, according to Google, is Betjeman. So, Betjeman.
I thought we were looking up who he was. We were just
Yeah.
looking up how to pronounce.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I can look up who he was.
Well, while you do that, we can look.
One of my jobs is to talk to the doctors, so I have to be good at pronouncing their names. And I've had doctors, like Dr. Hussein Zada. He was like, "You pronounce my name right," and looked at me like I was a zoo exhibit.
Yeah, you're a spy.
Yeah, right.
You're a
Right.
spy.
You're just good at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah,
Time
I
to
can't-
take him away.
I can't speak a foreign language and understand it, but I can pronounce the bejesus out of it.
you rock. You're awesome.
It's like me, I can read Spanish really, or Espanol very well, but I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my French teacher said. Lisa, your accent, and by the way, I haven't been around anyone French for a while. She was actually French. She's like, your accent's perfect. Do you have any idea what you just said? I'm like,
No.
nope.
Well, while you're looking that up, let's move
Okay.
on to number 7.
Okay.
Unquiet Slumbers for Sleepers. And Kevin, what's your take on this one?
Well, I actually kind of personally, I string the next 3 songs together, kind of as almost like
I initially had them ranked sequentially, and then I broke them up later.
Yeah, but I look at it as almost like a
Yeah, they segue into each
or
other, so
something,
it's like
you know?
one piece. Yeah.
since 1976 as a kid, that's how I've looked at that on this album. And so, and that's what I wrote. It's two instrumentals that are strung together. These are songs that the band got to stretch their legs on as musicians and show off their instrumental and songwriting abilities. So that's what I'm doing in this description, is I'm linking them together. I think it's kind of a slow intro. And this is another one. These two songs together live was another thing that they did every time I saw them, and just the way it kind of goes from melancholy and slow at the beginning, and then that snare drum comes in for In That Quiet Earth, and just kind of opens the whole thing and it explodes, this group of songs is what really did it for me for the whole album. It's probably one of the first times that I got goosebumps from listening to music as a kid, and it just has, it got its hooks on me then, and it still does now. As a matter of fact, when I was listening to this again, I still got goosebumps.
Nice. That's
Cool. So,
what music's all about, right?
Yeah, it is. So, and just the middle section of In That Quiet Earth was just like, where the guitars come in and it slows down, and it's like that. I guess it's a keyboard solo, but just the rhythm and the feel of that, I think that's what did it for me. That's when the goosebumps hit with me. So, amazing stuff.
Yeah. I thought that I read that this unique or unquiet slumbers for the sleepers and In That Quiet Earth were the last two lines of Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. This is not, and that adds to the British canon of this. Of course, Kate Bush did Wuthering Heights, the song. So, I mean, again, Genesis is trying to tie in history or intellectual themes into these songs. They're trying to infuse that into it. I enjoyed these movements. You might think of them as movements leading up to Afterglow. I like the second. I like In That Quiet Earth a little better because of that guitar riff you're talking about that comes in, or maybe it's keyboard. Again, we're talking about prog rock, so sometimes it's difficult to make that distinction. But it reminded me a little bit of like maybe some post Roger Waters, Pink Floyd. Maybe not so much the older stuff like Ummagumma and Piper to Gates of Dawn, but more like Momentary Lapse of Reason, something like that. And I dug that. I really liked that. And then we can almost talk about these last three songs, like you said, almost as one. I don't think we really need to break them all down. It leads up to Afterglow, which apparently became their standard closing for a lot of concerts. And I thought it was interesting that that term Afterglow is commonly used in like hard rock and metal and literature reference as the luminescence from thermonuclear detonation. And I don't think this song's about thermonuclear detonation, but I think that it's about I think it's still trying to evoke this thought of the radiation that leaves after an instance of, or the glow that emits after an instance of high emotional resonance or something. Love.
Hope.
It's an allusion to an afterglow from love or something, of that nature. Not nothing nihilistic.
Not nuclear fallout.
Yeah, not nuclear fallout. But I thought it was just interesting that Afterglow has become a kind of an ominous thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the case in 1976 or not. But
have a tendency to think of Afterglow in a more personal way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I get you.
Wink, wink.
I get what you're. I get
Nod,
what you're
nod,
saying there.
nudge, nudge.
They're going
So-
to do the sexy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For
All right.
Unquiet Slumbers. Oh, sorry, you're still talking.
No, I'm done.
Oh.
Sorry.
Unquiet Slumbers, my note was sounds like music from a spaghetti western.
Yeah.
That whole thing does kind of sound like people riding horses to me. And then In That Quiet Earth, I just had great bass and drums in this track is my note. And then Afterglow, I like that the droning bass. I guess it's probably pedals, but they don't let up until the very end.
hmm
And then he's also doing bass fills. So I don't know if I don't know if it's Tony Banks or Mike Rutherford doing that, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard a little note that after writing the melody to Afterglow, the vocal melody, Collins realized it was similar to Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Nah.
And then he decided it was different enough to stick with it. So
There you go.
There's a sense of humor about this album.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Afterglow to me, it's almost like the perfect ending to this album, in the mood that it creates, and that's what it is. To me, it's almost like there's some dark subject matter.
Well, it's their encore
the other
song too, right?
Huh?
It's their encore song too, so it's
Yeah,
like their big ending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Philip
it's
notes
kinda
that
like
they would often end
Because there's
concerts.
hope,
Well, there you go. That's 9 tracks
Mhm.
of Wind and
Yeah.
Wuthering by Genesis. So
Now,
as our
how about if Phil wants to go first with his rankings, then Aaron, and then as our guest, Kevin can round out the rankings.
yeah, okay. Well, that's as our
Okay.
listener knows,
Mm-hmm.
we rank our albums at the end. It's not intended to be the definitive answer on anything, but
And it's not a put down on any of the songs.
it may appear on our official
It could be a
track
put down
list.
on some of the songs. It's up to you.
Well,
Personal
It's not-
opinion.
it's put
That's right.
down. Let's put it that way. That's not the intention.
So are you ready for mine, Aaron? You got your
I'm
handy,
ready.
grinder or what blender or whatever
Spreadsheet.
data spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
one of those.
So I went with Blood on the Rooftops first,
Okay.
then Your Own Special Way, In the Quiet Earth, One for the Vine, number 4, number 5, Unquiet Slumber for Sleepers, and ironically followed by Afterglow, because I didn't necessarily, Afterglow number 6, I didn't necessarily put it together like an orchestral movement, kind of the way that you described it. But it makes sense now when I look at my rankings that, I quite like that as well, because I have 3, 5, and 6. They're all in there. Number 7, All in a Mouse's Night. Number 8, Watt Gorilla. And number 9, 11th Earl of Mar. I just felt like
That one didn't grab you as hard.
I feel like it was ambitious and just missed the mark. I felt like the lyrics were just a little corny,
Okay.
but still a strong album.
All right.
Mr. Aaron.
Mine were number 1, All in a Mouse's Night. Number 2, In That Quiet Earth. Number 3, Watt Gorilla. Number 4, Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers. Number 5, Afterglow. Number 6, One for the Vine. Number 7, Your Own Special Way. Number 8, Blood on the Rooftops. Number 9, 11th Earl of Mar. And like I said, they're all it's a narrow band from first to last, so they could be flopped every time you listen.
Check with you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Kevin, what's today's feeling?
Today's feeling
On the
is
rankings?
and it was created today. Number 1, Unquiet Slumber. Well, I grouped Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers and In That Quiet Earth together. So in
Okay,
that
so
order.
one's Unquiet, two's In
Yeah,
That Quiet.
but they're both one. So
Right.
and then number 2 would be Afterglow. Number 3, One for the Vine. Number 4, All in a Mouse's Night. Number 5, 11th Earl of Mar. Number 6, What Gorilla. Number 7, Blood on the Rooftops. Number 8, and then Your Own Special Way, and the other ones were grouped together. So
yeah.
So One
just
for
made
the
'em 1
Vine
and
is the
2.
one that really elevated for you, because I'm looking at your list you gave me the other day.
it did. It
Yeah.
did. I know. Yeah, and you know, I can't even explain it. You know, the only thing that I could use to explain it is that I as an audio engineer, I realized that we have our audio, train of thought or whatever is
prejudices.
Like, no, it's like 15 seconds long.
Yeah.
So you can actually remember something that you're listening to in music for about 15 seconds, and then listen back and you'll hear something different or hear it in a different way 15 seconds later. And it's kind of like how our audio attention span. That's what I was looking for.
There you go.
It's like 15 seconds long. And that would be the only way I could explain it, is in those 15 seconds. That's how it changed.
Yeah. I watched a cool video the other day. It was 2 audio engineers, and they had Josh Groban's drummer in the studio. His name's like Kaz Rodriguez or something like that. And they played him a Primus song with the drums removed that he'd never heard before. It was Jerry Was a Race Car Driver.
Okay.
They let him listen to it as many times as he wanted, without the drums. And then they had him lay down drums for it. And then, he finally got to listen back to the originals, and it's a really cool looking exercise.
Oh, that's great.
But he did a good job.
Well, so now it's time to find out what our banger of the podcast is.
All right.
And I think a drum roll is more than appropriate with.
How about I count them down backwards, and then we'll do the drum roll at 2.
Okay.
All right. Number 9, the 11th Earl of Mar. Number 8 and number 7. Oh, number 8 and 7 are a tie. What Gorilla and Your Own Special Way. Number 6, Blood on the Rooftops. Number 5, One for the Vine. Number 4, Afterglow. Number 3, All in a Mouse's Night. Number 2, Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers, and the drum roll. Number 1, I hear the drums. In That Quiet Earth is the banger.
Well, that their song right there is a real banger.
It's a banger.
It's a banger.
It's a banger.
How appropriate.
Quiet Earth. Wow.
Right.
Man, that's a little bit of a stunner for me, but that's great, because I really did like that.
Yeah.
That was really
Cool. Yeah, it got It got second place votes from me and Kevin, and that was enough to propel it into first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was third for
And it
Phil.
got a third place vote from Phil, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now,
That's strong for that's got to be our first instrumental to win the banger.
Look at that.
Yeah, might be.
Let me interject here. Sir John Betjeman, CBE, was an English poet, writer, and broadcaster. He was poet laureate from 1972 until his death in 1984. He was a founding member of the Victorian Society and a passionate defender of Victorian architecture, helping to save some Pancras railway station from demolition.
Wow.
And that's just a short bio.
Yeah.
You can insert that wherever you want in the
Which
podcast.
song
That makes a lot of
was he
sense.
related to? Was that Blood on the Rooftops?
Yeah.
Yep. Blood
Yep,
on the rooftops.
Yeah, I think that was something to
And,
do with
And I did, I looked up Phil Collins's health issue. It's type 2 diabetes.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't
just-
scoff at that.
I don't know. I mean, I've had it forever. I don't look like I'm dying from it.
Well, Phil's, the rigors of the road.
He's-
I don't know what's
He's
going
had
on.
to
Yeah.
have back surgeries and
Oh,
foot
okay.
problems, and
I think his son was
Yeah, I've
playing
had foot
drums with him
problems.
too. So
His
took over
son's
for
a drummer?
Chester.
Okay. Well, he is a very in
had a-
the course of his career, he's been a very prolific drummer, right? Because like on Live Aid, for instance, didn't he drum for 2 different bands on different continents in the same
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin.
One of 'em was
Phil.
Led
Phil
Zeppelin.
Collins' son or Phil
Phil,
Collins?
Phil.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I've seen him other projects through the years supporting different artists, sort of like Jack White or something, does.
Yeah.
Or Dave Grohl, that type of communal activity where he'll help out other bands and stuff.
yeah, he does a lot of charity work. I think he was big in the Secret Policeman's Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you guys on the controversy with the Led Zeppelin, Live Aid, Phil Collins situation?
Oh yeah.
Controversy.
I think
That Led Zeppelin
our friend
kind of
the next day in high
taking-
school, our friend Mooney put it best. He said, "That wasn't Zeppelin, man."
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so I think that I don't know if it's a controversy or not, but it's like Page or Plant. One of them said it was a complete cluster, and they tried to lay it at the feet of Phil Collins for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but I mean, so you have arguably the greatest drummer of all time who've done this song, these songs, John
Mhm.
Bonham, and so you're asking a guy to fill in one day. I think it's a little bit of especially when he's traveling around, I think it's a little bit of a cop out to blame a bad performance on a
Yeah.
somebody's trying to help.
But on the other hand, I mean, is it really blame or just, hey, this wasn't our regular guy, it's a fill-in. So,
Weren't
it kind of threw the
Weren't there
performance
2
out.
drummers? Wasn't Jason Bonham and Phil Collins?
I don't think Jason Bonham was at that.
He wasn't.
I don't know.
He was at the O2, but not
Yeah, I
Mhm.
probably mixed it
2007.
up.
All right,
Been-
Kevin, it's been
It's
great,
been
man.
almost
So
40 years ago now. Wow.
Yeah, right.
No
Just
kidding.
yesterday.
What's Live Aid?
Yeah, what is Live Aid? That's the Queen concert that all these other bands open
Yeah.
for. So
Yeah, that was when
Kevin-
Rami Malek did that Queen show.
yeah. Right. So Kevin, what are the Cobras up to? What are you and Dean and Tony and
Well, we
Yeah.
got a show coming up on February 25th at the Camellia Festival in Temple City, California.
okay.
And we're in the middle of recording an album to be released over the summer. And
Nice.
we're doing a mixture of original songs and covers of, well, let's just say we're taking like Lady Gaga and the Foo Fighters, and we're doing it maybe the way Johnny Cash or
Oh,
the
wow.
Beach Boys do it.
That'd be-
So,
Yeah, that's cool.
Some
You know.
genre twisting covers. I like it.
yes,
Right.
and it's I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We're working on a new show, and yeah, it's we're changing just the way
Are
any
you-
band should.
Awesome.
So are you guys doing any? I know I saw Dean did a video, or was starred in a Cobras video that you guys did. Where he's like
Yes.
tied up or something like that, in an apartment
Yes.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So you guys doing any videos for this one?
We're looking into some ideas. There's we were thinking of doing one of the songs we're covering is kind of like line danceable, so I think we're gonna do like a line dance video. We're gonna create a dance for it and see where that goes. But
Yeah.
Cool.
When I
think
saw
that
you
if
guys
we
in
make a
Moore Park,
video
you
out
had
of
them
this-
all line dancing. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It looked like fun. The one you went to, Aaron, I've seen other videos with the Cobras, but the one you went to looked like everybody was dancing. It was like everybody was having a good time on that one.
well, that's
Yeah.
our job, you know. So that's
All
for
right.
sure.
Well, so we'll go ahead and close out the show.
But
And
Genesis,
everybody.
Genesis can't dance. They famously.
that's right. Can't sing. Can't sing either.
That's
All right, man. So you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy
It's
your
great
guys
to see you,
too.
Kevin. Thanks for coming
Thank you.
on.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, happy.
Your
I
film,
hope
Lisa,
the birthday
thanks.
party goes well.
SmokingCobras.com, right? SmokingCobras.com.
SmokingCobras.com. Yes.
Oh,
We have
Right on.
social.
Twitter,
Yeah, pod.
Instagram,
Yeah, pod.
Facebook.
Yeah, pod. So let us know. Hit us back. Have a great week.